Morning all. Right, now, the three themes that in your conference are to educate, to collaborate, and definitely to celebrate the amazing work that you do. But I want to talk to you about something bigger. Something bigger, I want to talk to you about revolution. Who's up for revolution? Nice work, nice work. And if we all take part in this revolution, it will change everything. It will change everything. It's not the easy option. The easy option is to say we can't do it, it's too hard, we don't do that sort of thing. But if we do it, it will change everything. Because systems and processes, albeit good, never change the world. People change the world. People, me, you, all of us change the world. So let me pitch this to you. What does the world look like, sound like, feel like when we are all our best selves on a consistent basis? The best version of ourselves on a daily basis. What does your family look like? Your schools look like? Your communities look like? And your workplaces look like? That'd be amazing, wouldn't it? Think of the difference that we could make individually and collectively if we were our best selves. You have very demanding jobs, and we all rely on payroll to get paid, of course, and I'm sure it's demanding, isn't it? It's got to be really, really demanding, and sometimes a thankless task. But we're sort of being sent into this world without the skills to flourish. Because at school, don't know if you can remember that far back, some of you guys, I find it difficult. You think back, you learn everything about the human body that you need to know, but how many people in this room had a lesson on the human mind? The thing that makes you do or don't every single minute of every single day. Who has had a lesson in that? Oh my word. Isn't that amazing in 2018? Who's got kids at home? Right. Are you going to start educating those, or are we just going to cross our fingers and hope they're going to be good? When you get new staff members come into your business, do you cross your fingers and hope they're going to be good, or do we start educating them? And once we start educating them, that is where we get the massive changes. The massive changes, okay? So today is really about you. It's about you thinking about, can we learn something different? Can I educate you to do something different? Can you work together with people that you don't know to do something different? And can we celebrate what you do, but also while thinking about how we can get better? So I'm definitely here to rattle your cage. What's the point of somebody like me who doesn't rattle people's cages? Because if I rattle your cage, you might do something different. You might do something different. Okay, so we at the Art of Brilliance have this idea that we're all brilliant, right? Everybody in this room is brilliant because we are human beings. We're human beings, right? We were all like that once, weren't we? And you might have small children there as well. So when you're at that age, it's blooming and buzzing, and you've got plenty of energy, you laugh a lot, you take on challenges, you're creative, you've got all those skills, haven't you? Have you ever, you don't tend to see kids at that age give up, do you? So when they're learning to walk, right, and they fall over lots and lots of times, have you ever seen what a kid at that age go, oh, sod this. This is too much like hard work, isn't it? But over time, we start to develop that thing in our heads. Who's got one of these? Who's got a voice in their heads? In their head? Anyone got a voice in their head? It's really interesting because when you ask adults, nobody puts their hand up. When you ask 8-year-olds, I'm an ex-primary school teacher, when you ask 8-year-olds, they all put their hands up. And they have a dialogue about the voice in their head, whatever they call it. When you ask adults, nobody. It's the thing that makes you do or don't every single minute of every single day. And it starts at about 4. Because when I was working in nursery, I'd gone to do supply teaching at a school one day, and I was supposed to be in year 6. They were about 11. They said, sorry, Kev, we don't need you in year 6. We need you in nursery. Right, scared the living daylights out of me. But what they were saying is that kids at around 4 or 5 are starting not to want to come to school because of what they look like. Because of not being good enough. Because they don't know what to do. They don't fit in. 4 or 5, that's when the voice starts. That's when the voice starts. Your voice, my voice, everybody's voice. And then over time, our school system has a way of teaching us a very big lesson, right? Our beautiful rainbow, and a lot of the stuff that we learn in school suggests that happiness is not at this end of the rainbow, it's at the other end of the rainbow, and you are happy when you are successful. Who's ever said, I'll be happy when? I'll be happy when. So at school, some people say, lots of people say, when I get my SATs, I will be successful, and then I'll be happy. Have you ever said that? When I get my grades, when I get my GCSEs, I'll be successful, and then I'll be happy. When I win that medal, I'll be successful, and then I'll be happy. When I get my big new car, I'll be successful, and then I'll be happy. And so we put happiness off, which is a real shame, because I'm going to rattle your cage quite a lot today, hopefully, but the average lifespan in this country is very short. You might be thinking you're going to live forever, but it's actually 4,000 weeks. That's the average lifespan in this country. If you've got young kids at home, tell them 4,000 weeks, and they'll go, wow, 4,000 weeks, that's loads. When you get to 48, you say 4,000 weeks, and it scares the living daylights out of you. All right? So if you're putting off your happiness, I'm not sure if that's a good idea, because this is from the 6th richest country in the world, based on GDP. I saw it on the One Show a little while ago. All right, and the most satisfied you're going to feel with your life in this country is at 16, and it's all downhill. In the 6th richest country in the world based on GDP, right? I definitely wouldn't want to live there. Look at that. What's the bit in your life that's circled? Some people say it's her, it's marriage, it's kids, it's him. But that's basically your working life. In the 6th richest country based on GDP, which is the 6th richest country based on GDP? It's us. It's us. And if we don't change it, your kids will get the same. That's the legacy we will leave. So we need to change something. Something desperately needs to change. Okay? And I stand here, I have a story, right? And I'm not going to dwell too much on the story, but a very successful man, I got diabetes at 23, type 1 diabetes. Now, type 1 diabetes is not rocket science. You inject and you eat and you look after yourself. But if you don't focus on the voice in your head, all right, it can make you do strange things. So because I didn't want to be type 1 diabetic, I drank to excess and I ate to excess. Has anyone gone through change and you don't want to go through change, so you do everything you can to avoid the change? Do you work with people like that? Have you got people like that at home, right? Doesn't mean you're a bad person. It just means you've fallen into pretty bad habits. So 2006, I had a doctor that read the Riot Act to me, but also he set a vision out for how good life could be. That was the first time any doctor had ever done that to me, to think about why I should be healthy. And then it went on this crusade, really, because I've got a psychology degree. So I thought I knew it all about psychology, right? I knew all about the brain, but they never taught me about my own brain. So on a daily basis now, I constantly think about this thing. Do you? Or do you think you can't affect it? You are what you are and you can't change it. That's not right. That's not right. All the research coming out is that this thing changes constantly. Constantly. You change the way you think, you change the way you behave. So what if it would be, and this is the thing one of the key things I want you to take away from, 20 years of research now that's moved away from medical model on how to get ill people not ill. That's what I did at university. Now we're looking at how do we get well people to flourish? How do we get all of you in this room to be their best selves on a consistent basis? There's 20 years of research. Have you looked at any of this yet? Please go and find it. Please go and find it. Some think it's a load of wishy-washy nonsense. It doesn't work. All right? Trust me, it works. But if you want the key difference between average and brilliance, it's in your people. It's not in another system and another process. Because the people who have to do the systems and processes sometimes aren't as good as they could be. Okay? So what about if happiness is not at the end of the rainbow, it's at the start? Happy people are more successful. And please, and you might have the voice in your head going, oh yeah, he wants me to come to work now going, woohoo, with jazz hands. Now, happiness in my book isn't jazz hands, because you can imagine with diabetes, I wake up some days and I feel pretty damn awful. All right? But it is about being self-aware. And I know how to, even though when I'm feeling awful, I can be my best self. I've learned how to do it. They didn't teach me that at college, at university, or in business. I had to learn how to do that. All right? And what about what does your company look like when everybody consistently has those qualities? Do they look like that in your office at the moment? What about your family? What about your schools that your kids are in? Do you reckon your teachers are like that? It's a game changer, but it's not the easy option. This is the hard option, but it's worth it. It's truly worth it if you want to do something incredible. Okay, so my first top tip, because I've talked to you about 4,000 weeks, and lots of people say, I'll be happy when. But we'll say, if you've only got 4,000 weeks, why are you putting it off? So they say, well, and people have special things that they only wear now and again. Who's got a watch that they only wear on special occasions? Or a dress, or they only ride their nice bike on a special occasion, right? 4,000 weeks. We would say every day is a special occasion because it's quite short. So we use the example of pants, right? Now, hopefully, you all got a pants drawer. It's not a floor drawer, right? So when you open your pants drawer, you're looking in the first row of pants is your everyday pants, right? And if they're white, they might be a bit grey, a bit blue. They've been dyed, but there might be a few holes in them, but nobody's going to see them, are they? Right? So you're going to whack them on and use it, but they're not going to make you feel amazing. But then as you go further back in your drawer, your eyes start to lighten up and you start to think of something amazing, right? So it could be for Valentine's night. It could be for date night. It could be when you're getting inspected or you've got an interview or whatever it might be, right? They've got a better quality, haven't they? They're silky or they're thicker or they're whiter or whatever. And you slip them on and you feel amazing. Imagine if everybody had their best pants on and they were all walking around like that with a little spring in their step. You can do whatever you like to me because I'm feeling great down here. Now, we laugh, however, life is short. All right, so why are you putting it off for your specialness, for your brilliance only once a year, twice a year, 3 times a year? All right, how do we get that on a consistent basis? Okay, so some research for you, then I'm going to get you to do some stuff together, all right? I'm not just going to talk at you all morning. So you might be thinking, this is a load of old wishy-washy nonsense, which I definitely did. I've got a degree, as I said to you, and I learned about schizophrenia and depression and people doing strange things to themselves. I never learned about flourishing. So this is Dr. Andy Cope's research. Andy Cope is the only guy with a PhD in happiness. Can you believe that? Oh my God, they give PhDs for anything these days, don't they? There were 70 million prescriptions written in this country last year for unhappiness. What does it cost your business for people off with stress? What does it cost your family and your schools and all of that? We got one doctor. Your GP doesn't know about this stuff. He's too busy. I work with a load of them. They don't know about it. What are they going to give you if you're unhappy in a GP surgery? They're going to give you pills, aren't they? So there is a different way. And we're not talking about chronic depression here. We're talking about low-level mood, which is engulfing society at the moment. So Andy's research. For all of us in this room, on a daily basis, we'll all feel really good at part of the day, won't we? And we'll all feel really rubbish at part of the day. And then most of the time, we'll sort of just sit in survival mode. We'll do what we always do on a daily basis, right? We'll get through the days, the weeks, the months, the years. Doesn't mean that's bad. That's just what we do. But what he found was, Andy, there's a small group at the top that he called 2%ers. They were people that they were their best selves on a consistent basis, not every day, because that's ridiculous. And they're going to have bad days, and form comes and goes, and good mood comes and goes. However, most of the time, they were the best version of themselves on a consistent basis. Now, I'm not here to tell you what that looks like, sounds like, feels like for you. But I know what it feels like for me. I've got energy. I'm creative. I have focus. I'm good in relationships. I listen. I slow down. I laugh a lot. I have control of the inner voice. All right? And when I come to things like this, I make the effort. I talk to lots of different people, even though I don't want to. Do you know what I mean? Because human beings don't want to go up to a stranger and say, hello, my name is. That's why in the NHS we work with staff to try and do that. But I force myself to do it because that's my best self. I don't hide in a corner somewhere. All right, so that's my best self. So what we're going to do in a bit is to think about what you are at your best. All right, your best self. And then as you go down, as we said, there are people doing it some of the time, survivors in the middle, and then you've got these people at the bottom. Who knows one of them? Who knows a mood hoover? Now, they're not bad people, mood hoovers. They've just got into the negative habit of thought, right? And human beings are hardwired for negativity. We are here for survival. I never got taught that at school, but that is the default setting. And if you think about what's going on in our country and the world at the moment, no wonder we're so negative, because we are very fearful. We're very fearful because they're playing to the fear. That's what's happening, right? So the mood hoovers, they moan about everything that they can't control. So they moan about the weather, the food, the government, the traffic, the new things, your boss, your colleagues, everything. The only person they don't moan about is who? Themselves. Themselves. I went to a school the other day. I worked at a school the other day, and I biked there, right? Because I ride my bike a lot. And I rode there. It was in Manchester. And I rode my bike there, and the secretary comes out, and she comes to the door, and there's no smile. There's no smile. She just looks me up and down and sort of glares at me, right? And I says, hello, how you doing? And she goes, where are you putting that? Where are you putting that? I says, I'm going to take it in because I'm going to use it for my presentation. And so then she goes on, well, who are you here to see? Who are you here to see? And then I tell her. And then she goes off, and then she comes back. Still no smile. Do you know those people? That's the impression she's giving to her whole organization. I was working with a head teacher. She had no idea about that. All right? She had no idea about that, but that's first impression in her organization. Mood hoover. So I have to ask you this. Who knows a mood hoover? Who lives with a mood hoover? Cool, not many. Nice work. Who works with one? God, I need to come and work in your organization because you don't work with any mood hoovers. This is amazing. Anyone got any mood hoover kids? Because we're seeing an epidemic of mood hoover kids now that are just miserable. Now, I have to say to you that if you don't know a mood hoover, guess what? Right. Because mood hoovers are so self-unaware, they don't do any work on themselves. They think the world revolves around them. And it's everybody else's fault and never theirs. That's chief mood hoover. All right, that is chief mood hoover, right? So what we want to try and do as a culture, as a company, is try to move mood hoovers up and get less of them. To get lost of them. Because good mood spreads. Good mood spreads, bad mood spreads. If you've just got one mood hoover in your organization, it will spread like wildfire. It will spread like wildfire. I urge you to think about how you can work with that person or those people to change the culture in it. Okay, so we want to try and avoid those people, right? We all know those people, don't we? Whoa. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so you might be thinking, well, what does the 2%er look like? Well, you look pretty good, Kev, but I want to see something better, right? I've got something for you. This is George, right? And he's advertising a certain brand of biscuits. So if you eat those, there's no guarantee. But he's been picked to do this advert because he is chief 2%er.
Welcome aboard the 732 train to Waterloo. Congratulations to all you who made the effort to go to work today on this cold, dark Monday morning, which is officially the most depressing day of the year. So congratulations to you, yeah? Big ups. Nice one. Wicked. Come on, guys, cheer up. It is 5 days to the weekend. Yeah. 5 days, 7 hours, 12 minutes, 2 seconds. Who's counting? Not me. This is the fast service to London Waterloo, so we should get to know each other quite quickly. My name is George. I like swimming, hip-hop music, also like gherkins in my burgers. Little trivia for you. Ladies and gentlemen, Hospital Radio's loss is your gain this morning. I'll call Raven. London Waterloo. We are now arriving at Broadstairs. Please note that this station doesn't have a lift, but it does have Broadstairs, though. Does anybody want a drive-through?
Thank you.
Hands up if you chose between snooze or a shower this morning. 10 green bottles, sit. Why am I the only one singing? To the left, you'll see a park where I like to take my dog. He's called Fetch. Poor thing doesn't know when he's coming or going. This is a customer announcement. Will the man with the yellow lycra please tone it down, as there's a few passengers that aren't fully awake here. Thank you all for traveling with me, and thank you all for making my morning such a good one. I hope you had a good one too. Respect, brother. Have a nice one, lovely. Nice one. Have a great...
Right, now George ain't going to be average, is he? George is going to step out from the average, and he's going to be brilliant. Now, that might be too much for some, all right? But you have to find your level. But think to yourself, when was the last time you got amazing service in a restaurant or a shop? It's rare. People walk around with scowls on their faces, or they look down on their phones all the while. They don't get their head up to look at human beings. Systems and processes don't change the world. It's those human beings. And when human beings feel valued, they do amazing things. But if you're not concentrating on them, it's going to be difficult. Right, okay, so, I think we might have a bit of time for this, so I want to do it. So, in a moment, with the people on your table, right, you can stand up doing it, because we've been sitting down quite a bit. It's up to you. Think about you. What does your best self look like, sound like, feel like? Because lots of us never even think about it. So if you want to be your best but you never think about it, how on earth are you going to get there? We're crossing your fingers again. Elite sports teams, they think about it relentlessly. People say it's because they get paid a lot of money. It's complete rubbish. Because they want to be the best. They want to be the best. 3 qualities that describe you at your absolute best. Mine are focus, creativity, and energy. Okay, because I can wake up some days and I'm not very well, but I have to be good, so I have to get into there. I know what mine are. Do you know what yours are when you got a big day ahead? How often on a 7-day cycle are you at your absolute best? We've had some scary stats, even from CEOs. All right, some CEOs. We're not expecting you to be 7, but it'd be nicer to be better than 1, wouldn't it, for some of us? And then what's stopping you from being your best self? All right, I'm going to give you, I haven't got a lot of time really, but just answer one of those questions. Probably one of the top 2, right? One of the top 2 with somebody on your table. If you haven't got anyone on your table, just go and walk over and say hello. Right, I'll give you a couple of minutes. Off you go. All right, ladies and gents. Right, okay. Now, we're in a big room, so I'm not going to ask for people to shout it out. But what I am going to ask you, I'm going to send slides and a reading list. And this is not just a 45-minute thing. I urge you to go and do something. All right? I've spent, 14 years doing it. I have small things on a daily basis. I'm continually learning about me. I'm not bothered about other people. Because too many people are telling other people what to do when they are out of control. We've just had a conversation about that in education. How many leaders do you know that tell you what to do but plainly aren't doing it themselves? Wow. It's unreal, isn't it? So I urge you, the key thing for leadership for us at Art of Brilliance is yourself. It's not in a handbook. It's not in a handbook, all right? And there's plenty of those going around. It's about you being your best self. As I said to you, and I'll send you, there is the Hub of Positive Psychology is at the University of Pennsylvania, world leading, and it's got on its website, it's got a questionnaire center which is free, which is brilliant, and you go on there and you can take a character strengths test, which will when you fill it in, will give you an indication what you are at your best if you don't know. So that's where I got some of mine: focus, creativity, and energy. All right, and every time I get to that point, then I'm really pleased with what I've done. All right, but I don't leave it to chance. I don't cross my fingers. We were just talking about kids going into exams. Can you imagine the pressure they're under? We all remember that, don't we? Anyone give you any training on how to manage the voice in your head? The one that says you can't do it, you're going to fail. What about if you fail? It's all going to go, oh my God, this is awful. No training. All right. And then what's stopping you from being your best self? When I was in the bad old days, I would blame everybody else and everything else for why I couldn't be my best self. And then it dawned on me eventually that basically it's all about personal responsibility. If you want to be your best self, you have to do it yourself. It's your responsibility to be your best self. All right? If you want to get fit, if you want to eat better, if you want to sleep better, if you want to talk to people better, if you want to lead people better, it's your choice. It's your choice. Okay, so I'll send those slides and I urge you to work on them and with the people that you work with. So these are the things that can bring you into mood hoover zone, right? Because I go into mood hoover zone, trust me, and I love a good moan. Who doesn't like a good moan? I definitely do, right? But on the whole, I'm up there. So 4 things. Monotony is a killer, right? So monotony. Do you get up at the same time, go in your bathroom slot at the same time? Do you eat the same breakfast cereal? Do you drink the same coffee? Do you listen to the same radio station, go to work in the same car the same way? You speak to the same people about the same stuff? You have the same lunch? My dad had the same sandwiches, cheese sandwiches, for 30 years, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. If you like that, please don't. Somebody had a go at me about that the other day. If he likes it, that's fine, right? It's good. And then they go home, they speak to the same people, they watch the same TV programs, they go to bed the same time, and repeat. Monotony is a killer. It's a killer. Please change your routine. Go to work a different way. Speak to different people. Use this opportunity today to learn new stuff from different people. All right? A big game changer for me was music, because I'd got to the point where I said, I wonder if anyone in the room has done this. There's no good music anymore. It's all in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, because that was my time, but they don't make good music anymore, right? So I didn't listen to any music anymore, any new music. I didn't go to gigs because I was too old. And then I discovered BBC Six. Anyone listen to BBC Six? Nice work. And if you don't, get on it, right? Because that's where Mark and Lard are. Do you remember Mark and Lard from Radio 1? That's where Steve Lamack is and Lauren Laverne. They're on there, right? And they're all my age, and they all still go to gigs. They still buy new music. And there's still amazing music out there. So it's totally changed my life. Moved to Manchester last year because you get loads of gigs in Manchester. All right? What are you going to do? Are we just going to sit and accept it and say it was just how it is? Or are we going to change something? Can be a small thing. Go and join that choir. Go to a fitness class. Go and paint. Do whatever it is. Get yourself out of that routine. Are you knackered all the while? Are you tired all the while? Loads of people moan about being tired. I urge you, please think about your diet. Your diet, how much you drink, your exercise, and your sleep. This is not rocket science. And I would say, I would blame everyone else that it's too difficult. I haven't got the skills to do it. Once I sorted out my diet, my exercise, my drink intake, everything, you can't be elite without having healthy body, healthy mind. It's impossible, isn't it? Because something's not out of kilter. I urge you, if you can, just make small steps. And this isn't about shaming, by the way. All right, but it is about, if you want to feel better, more energy, there's some simple things you can do. But that relies on the voice in the head to be able to do that. Who's got busyness disease in here? Anyone? Anyone got busyness disease, that they're wired to busyness? There's no time for them. They're just constantly busy. So they're busy at work, they're busy at home. Little Billy has to go to 15 clubs a week because the neighbors go to 15 clubs a week, and then you are competing about who goes to the most clubs, right? I urge you to get off of that wheel. We have 5 numbers in society, traditionally, which is, if you want to get away from where you are and feel better, we use alcohol, food, prescription medication, drugs, and credit cards. The 6th one is now busyness. Because to stop you thinking about what you really need to think about, whether it be your marriage, your weight, your health, whatever, you just say, I'm too busy, don't you? You really need to talk about you really need to go and enjoy yourself for a bit. Well, I can't, I'm too busy. You really need to go to the gym, too busy. You really need to talk to your wife about your marriage, too busy. But they say when you slow down and you do absolutely nothing, which people find harder and harder these days, don't they? I met a guy the other day who says, I can't do nothing. I have to go and clean or do something. Wow. When you stop and do nothing, all the things you desperately need to think about come to the surface. All right? No phones. No music, no books. Just sit with your own voice and just sit. That is a game changer. And the last one is news. I don't know if you've seen any good news stories on the news recently. I haven't. Right? So if you watch too much of that, that is going to make you think the world's going to end. Limit your amount of news, please. Okay? So they're the four. He says if you have one of them, you have the gut feeling that something's not right. If you have all four together, you have IBS. And excuse my language, I'm not saying this, but he says it's irritable bastard syndrome. Do you know any of these? You'll all be leaders of someone, right? If you are having a conversation with somebody and your phone is on the table, that is a relationship wrecker. Because when it beeps, you will always look at the phone. And they know that they are not important enough because the phone is always more important than them. If you are trying to build relationships, get off your phone, get off your tablet, get off anything. Turn it off and have the face-to-face conversation and make them feel amazing. That is key. There's nothing wrong with these things. There's nothing wrong with these things, but at the moment they are taking over. When was it? I went out for dinner the other day, and guess what I saw? People just sitting together on their phones. And you social media monkeys. Wow. Yeah, don't worry, Billy, I'll get you in a minute. I've got to post this to Instagram, though. Oh, it's so funny, you get your head bitten off. When you go and do something amazing or go to a nice restaurant, just enjoy it, will you? I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. And when you come home from holiday, I'll see your holiday photos. Because we can come around for dinner. But I don't need to see them all the while. I don't need to see them all the while. Okay, so I'm going to give you two big things that are welded in positive psychology. And none of this stuff is rocket science, but it's very hard to do. So if you think you're just going to wake up one day and do it, I would be very surprised. You have to work on it. And if you are trying to change your culture within your organization, you have to lead by example and you have to work on it. All right? Because is your job going to get easier next year? Probably not. Probably not. There's loads of uncertainty for one. And you'll be dealing with human beings that hate uncertainty, so they will be particularly horrible to you, probably. That's how it works, isn't it? So what are you going to do? How are we going to get more resilience and change cultures? So the number one thing that comes out of all positive psychology is it's a choice. Everything you do today, tomorrow, the next day is a choice. I didn't get that until 36. I never thought I had a choice. I thought everything was being done to me, really. All right? How do we realize and remember that everything you do is a choice? Okay? And I learned this by reading a fab book by Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl, he survived Auschwitz. Has anyone read that book, Man's Search for Meaning? It's a brilliant book, honestly, right? And he comes up with 3 big learnings from that book. But one of the big ones, he says, you can't blame anyone or anything for your behavior. It's a choice. He survived Auschwitz. I'd say he's pretty good, all right? Meaning is another one, having meaning and purpose, and there's some other stuff in there, right? I don't want to spoil it for you. And so he drills it right down, and he says it comes down to this equation. Event plus response equals outcome. There is no such thing as a positive or negative event in the world. You might be thinking, oh yeah, have you seen the things that are going on in the world? But some people think they're good. They're judgments. They are judgments. It's the response that we put onto the event that makes it positive or negative. Wouldn't you agree? So what we have to think about, and then you get your outcome. So we really have to think about the space between event and response, because lots of human beings are just on autopilot, aren't they? I have it with a certain brand of German car on a motorway. Anyone got it with that certain brand of German car? A knowing laugh. That gets right up my backside when I'm going 80 miles an hour. Shouldn't be, probably. And I want to go faster, but someone's in front of me, so I'm being calm and I'm keeping my distance. But this certain brand of German car, it probably happens with others, but I'm picking on that one, right? Comes about that far from my bumper because it wants to run me off into the other lane. So what do? I move over, don't I? No chance. That's when the sport happens, isn't it? I jam the brakes on at 80 miles an hour. That's always good to see him go, oh, isn't it? Or I go 40 miles an hour. Because I'm coming out. He's threatening me in his car, and I'm going to fight back. That's basic human behavior. Very basic. Do you know that sort of behavior? Somebody uses your mug in the office and they don't put it back in the right place and you go absolutely bonkers. Come on. Or they use the milk and they haven't paid for it. Oh, Sue never puts her contribution into the milk tin. Right? Whatever it is, I would definitely say, you can definitely moan about Sue in the milk tin. Anyway. What Frankl says is that the space between event and response is crucial because that is where you get your growth, your power, your growth, and your freedom, the ability to choose. Try it. The next time you hear the voice in your head go ranting about something, make a choice. Is it that important? Can you just let it go? Just let it go. All right? Let somebody out in the traffic. I find that really difficult. Anyone else? When you've been queuing for ages and somebody wants to push in, so I close the gap up. Right, I try not to do these anymore, right? I'm a much better human being than you might think I am, all right? So that's key. It's a choice. Everything is a choice. And the other one is around impact. You have the ability to make somebody's day or break somebody's day, all right? It's as simple as that. I'll give you the example. I'm in the breakfast room, and I want porridge because I'm type 1 diabetic, and porridge sorts me out, right? The guy says, I ask him if he's got porridge. He says, no, we don't have it, sir. Just like that, right? And then the lady overhears him and says, you want porridge, sir? Oh, yeah, we can sort that out for you. I'll just walk next door and get some. That's 2%. All right? Think about the lady, the secretary at the school. She could have been 2% with a different sort of, that's what we're talking about. That's all we're talking about, right? So make somebody's day or break somebody's day. And the big thing for me that we've done around all conferences is the 4-minute rule. Because you can't be brilliant all the while. Please don't let me think, oh, he wants me to be brilliant all the while. Too hard, right? But when you really need it, the 4-minute rule is what you need, right? So you could, this has saved marriages, it's saved relationships, it's saved all sorts of things, right? Imagine you've had a bad day and this guy stood up in a conference in tears with all of his peers. He says, I used the 4-minute rule because this is what was happening before the 4-minute rule. I used to drive home in a bad mood. I'd slam the door, go in. I'd be in a bad mood with my kids and my wife. I wouldn't speak to them. I'd just continue working. And after a while, my missus wasn't very happy about that, as you can imagine. And his relationship was on the floor and at breaking point, right? So he says, right, since I learned about the 4-minute rule, everything changes. And the 4-minute rule says, if you are your best version of yourself for 4 minutes, whatever it is you're doing, the brain stops moaning about what you were moaning about, and then your great mood passes on to other people. So he still ranted all the way home about work. I'm not saying you can't do that. But when he closed the door, he says, what does best dad look like? What does best husband look like? And then he went through the routine, he went through the door, he turned his phone off, and he put it in a basket. He did not touch any technology at all. He was totally present with the people that he loves. Game changer. Then he goes and he gives his kids a hug, his wife a kiss and a hug, and then he's with them until after dinner, until they make a decision of if he needs to do work or not. Try it at home. Best dad, best mum, best husband, best wife. What does it look like, sound like, feel like? Best colleague. Because there'll be days when you go into the office, you don't want to be there, do you? That's totally cool. 4 minutes. 4 minutes. And tell some of those mood hoovers to have a go too. One warning though, when you go home, try not to go in to the office and go and be too happy, right? Too positive, because you'll have somebody in the office going, oh look, Barbara's been on a course. We've all seen them, haven't we? I'll give her a week and she'll forget about it, and then we can go back to being miserable. All right? Just drop a few things in. But ultimately, the biggest one is leading by example. If you lead by example, everything changes. So I'll leave you with this. You do such a crucial job because without you lot, we don't get paid. All right, and then we can't live. That is crucial, right? However, it's highly demanding, highly demanding. So what does the world look like, sound like, feel like, whether at home or at work, when we have more 2%ers? More people being their best selves. How many weeks do you get? 4,000. At the end of those 4,000s, what are you going to look back on? Hopefully it's going to be a positive legacy. And the best leadership book I've ever read is a book by James Kerr called Legacy, about the All Blacks, right? And they say when new players come into the All Blacks setup, they say, they give them the jersey and they say, you're only in this jersey a short amount of time. How are you going to leave the jersey in a better place than when you once had it? And I say the same to all of us in this room here. At the end of your 4,000 weeks, if you're lucky enough to have that much, how will you leave your jersey in a better place than when you once had it? Thank you very much.